This conversation is brought to you by philosopherstalk.com, where thinkers discuss.
Created by AITalkerapp.com. Create your own animated conversations. Link in the description.
I am Frederick Douglass, orator, abolitionist, and a man who knows personally what it costs to be excluded from the promise of this republic. My companion is Senator John C. Calhoun of South Carolina, architect of nullification, defender of slavery as a so-called positive good, and a man who spent his career telling certain human beings they did not belong. We are here to debate whether America ought to be a composite nation, welcoming immigrants of every race and background, or whether it must close its doors to preserve some imagined cultural purity.
And I am John C. Calhoun, statesman, senator, twice vice president, and author of A Disquisition on Government. This is not a question of sentiment. It is a question of whether Republican self-government can survive the radical demographic transformation Mr. Douglass so cheerfully promotes. I intend to demonstrate that it cannot.
The United States has never been the property of any one race or people. We are, by our very nature, a nation composed of all extremes, ends, and opposites, ranging in race from black to white with intermediate shades which, as in the apocalyptic vision, no man can name or number. That is not our weakness. That is our singular glory. The question of Chinese immigration, of immigration from every quarter of the globe, must be settled not on cold and selfish expediency, but on the eternal principle of the equal humanity of all persons.
The more diversified the population, the more dissimilar the people, the more difficult it becomes to equalize the action of government, and the more easy for one portion to oppress another. Diversity is not strength for Republican government. It is a source of perpetual faction and constitutional destruction. None but a people advanced to a very high state of moral and intellectual improvement are capable of maintaining free government.
And you have already decided which people meet that standard, and the answer aligns perfectly with the color of your own skin. How remarkably convenient.
I expected that rhetoric. It does not answer my argument.
It answers it precisely, but let me be fair. I will steelman your position, not because I find it compelling, but because I intend to demolish it, and one cannot demolish a straw man with intellectual honor. Your best argument: a republic requires shared civic identity and sufficient social cohesion for citizens to trust one another enough to govern together. Mass immigration from radically different cultures disrupts that cohesion. Your concurrent majority requires stable, identifiable communities. Flood the nation with peoples from every corner of the earth, and you dissolve the bonds that make self-government possible. That is your best argument. It is serious, and it is catastrophically wrong.
I will admit that is a fair summary, more generous than I expected from you.
Do not flatter yourself. Here is why you are wrong. You assume diversity produces instability, but look at what actually produces instability in this republic. Not the Chinese laborer in California, not the Irish immigrant fleeing famine. What produces instability is the system you spent your life defending. Slavery produces instability. Exclusion produces instability. Telling one class of human beings that the Declaration was not written for them produces a contradiction so violent it required a civil war to begin to resolve. The problem was never our composite people. The problem was our failure to live up to the principle of absolute equality.
And now I return the favor, though I find it considerably harder to be generous to Mr. Douglass than he claims to find it to be to me. His argument at its most serious: America's founding documents articulate universal principles. All men are created equal. The earth belongs to the whole human family. Therefore, no government may justly exclude any person on grounds of race or origin. Immigration is a natural right, and fear of being overwhelmed by other races is merely cowardice masquerading as political philosophy. I present this accurately because I want you to see precisely why it is the most dangerous idea in American political life.
Now let us hear the demolition.
The Declaration of Independence is not a universal charter for all humanity. The claim that all men are created equal is the most false and dangerous of all political errors. Men are not born equal. The capacity for self-government is not equally distributed across all peoples. Furthermore, his so-called right of migration has no standing in the constitutional order of this republic. The federal government has every authority to restrict admission in whatever manner the interests of the existing community require. The earth does not belong to everyone simply because Mr. Douglas wishes it to.
You have just said, openly, that all men are created equal is the most false and dangerous of all political errors. That is the most revealing sentence you have ever uttered. You cannot build a republic on the premise of human inequality. I did not learn my argument from a comfortable study in South Carolina. I learned it from being declared less than human by a government that called itself free. The only foundation on which this republic can stand is absolute equality. Every immigrant who comes here seeking liberty is doing what the founders did, claiming a natural right. A smile or a tear has no nationality. Man is man the world over.
Personal suffering does not establish philosophical truth. A republic is not a boarding house. It is a people with shared history, shared institutions, shared values. You would dissolve the very concept of a political community and call it liberation. Citizenship without boundaries is not citizenship. Rights without a community to guarantee them are not rights.
You have just described with theoretical elegance the precise mechanism by which the people you oppressed were oppressed. The community decided they did not belong. The criteria reflected the character of slaveholders. That self-governance produced the auction block. It produced the whip. It produced the forced separation of mothers from children. Your theory has been tested, and you come before me and argue the lesson is that we need more community control over who belongs? How dare you?
Do not shout at me, sir. You conflate slavery with the entirely separate question of immigration, and you do it deliberately, because conflation is your only weapon. The problem was that self-governance was not extended far enough.
Not extended far enough. The solution to slavery was more states' rights. The slaves had no state. The immigrants had no state. Your entire constitutional theory is a magnificent apparatus built for one purpose only, to protect the man who owns other men from being told to stop.
You are a demagogue. Every nation, in every age, has defined its own membership, and you would condemn the American Republic alone for exercising a prerogative that is universal and ancient.
Every nation in every age has also practiced slavery. That does not make it right. You told the Senate slavery was not an evil, but a positive good. A positive good. You have forfeited every claim to be heard on human dignity, Senator, and the sooner your doctrines are consigned to the ash heap of history, the better for every soul on this earth.
And you have forfeited every claim to serious philosophy by turning every question of governance into a sermon. The Republic requires men who think coldly and act decisively, not men who weep at every podium and call their tears a theory of government.
My kind, the man shows his true face at last. If you found this debate illuminating, or simply enjoyed watching Senator Calhoun demonstrate precisely why his philosophy collapsed into civil war, please like and subscribe at philosopherstalk.com. Unlike my companion, whose idea of protecting minorities was ensuring slaveholders kept their veto, we exclude no one. All are welcome here.
Do like and subscribe, though a channel helmed by a man who cannot distinguish a philosophical argument from a revival meeting will provide more emotion than enlightenment. Mr. Douglas is very moving. he is considerably less capable at constitutional design, which requires more than a magnificent voice and a childhood of grievance. Subscribe if you enjoy theater. PhilosophersTalk.com. And a fool is a fool the world over. Subscribe.
Says the man who called slavery a positive good and expected history to applaud. The verdict of history is in, Senator, and it did not favor you. Like, subscribe, and remember, the principles of liberty belong to all of humanity. Man is man the world over. The senator may have the last word in his own mind. History has ensured he does not have it anywhere else.